Hello friends, my name is Keisha, and I'm a proud member of the Métis Nation of Saskatchewan. I'm also a survivor of human trafficking. My trafficking began in Canada and crossed it to the United States. I was stalked, hunted, and ignored by the very systems that were meant to protect me. This is why, with my father, Dale Richardson, we started the CARES Project, an Indigenous survivor-led movement for humanity. We are dedicated to exposing human trafficking, government corruption, and holding institutions accountable. The judicial branch is broken. It has failed to restrain the evils that have come upon this republic. Whether it's family court failures, weaponization of the judiciary, COVID-era harms, or human trafficking, the courts have allowed these issues to continue unchecked for too long. One of the most powerful tools we're using is the petition for redress of grievances. These are lawful constitutional actions rooted in the founding principles of this country. On May 19, 2026, a formal petition for redress of grievances was submitted to the United States Congress. This petition is demanding that Congress and the President use the powers under Article 4, Section 4 to preserve this Republican form of government by restraining these abuses pending congressional investigation. Through the CARES Project Action Plan, we are mobilizing people across the United States to strengthen this effort. This petition has been created as a template. If you or someone you love have been hurt by these same systemic failures in the courts or by government institutions, your evidence matters. When you come forward, please bring your evidence along with a copy of the petition for redress of grievances. This helps connect your story to this growing constitutional record being placed before Congress. We are asking you to stand with us. Join the CARES Project Action Plan and help us build a precedent that demands accountability and protects the God-given rights of American families. Our united voices will compel Congress to uphold the Constitution and safeguard our liberties. United we stand, one nation under God. I will close with my favorite quote. The greatest want of the world is the want of men. Men who will not be bought or sold. Men who in their inmost souls are true and honest. Men who do not fear to call sin by its right name. Men whose conscience is as true to duty as the needle to the pole. Men who will stand for the right, though the heavens may fall. Thank you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the CARES Project podcast. Today, we are here with Leah Hoopes, who's an investigative journalist, has done a lot in the fight for the election fraud, and has taken the government to court numerous times as a result of this. And you were also one of the co-defendants with Trump earlier on. Welcome to the show. Want to just reintroduce yourself?
Thank you so much, Dale.
Yes, you want to reintroduce yourself to our audience, please?
Absolutely. I was a witness to the 2020 election fraud in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. I am self-taught in pro se litigation. I am also self-taught in open source investigations. And I was an alternate elector for President Trump. I co-authored the book, The Parallel Election, if you can see behind me. It has all of the information. I co-produced the documentary with Zero Media called The Big Con, and it's about all of the evidence and the sting operation that we had done with the whistleblower and Project Veritas, in which we caught Delaware County, Pennsylvania, not only committing election fraud, but then, of course, covering it up for years and years and years. So still in the fight. And yes, I was a co-defendant with President Trump. We were sued in Philadelphia. Greg and I represented ourselves in the Philadelphia courts. We had a Democrat judge, and we won that case after 900 plus days of fighting in Philadelphia against James Savage and James Allen, two of the subjects that were caught on the whistleblower tapes. So that's basically it in a nutshell.
Yeah, so you had to, a lot of familiarity with the corruption in the courts and obviously the election fraud and so forth, and has been at this for a long time. And so how widespread is this in Philadelphia? I mean, not Philadelphia. I mean, in Pennsylvania. Sorry.
It's very widespread, and it was interesting. Right before we got this interview started, we were talking about a specific character, which we will discuss a little bit later. But his name is James Allen, and he was implanted here in Delaware County in 2021, and he is a huge Democrat, and he worked with Noah Prates, who is a part of the elections group. And we all know what goes on in Cook County and has been going on in Cook County, Chicago for a very, very, very long time. He was sent here for a reason. And prior to him being sent here, he and Mr. Noah Prates discussed in length about how terrible these machines were, how unsafe they were not secure, blah, blah, blah. But now, of course, Mr. James Allen is our elections director and just promotes these machines like they're the best thing since sliced bread. But yeah, I mean, wherever there are machines, they can be corrupted. They have been corrupted. And there's multiple vectors of election fraud. I don't know why this is such a taboo subject. It's been going on. They've been stealing elections for a long time. Very, very long time. It's just much easier to do it now that we have these machines.
Yeah, so he was speaking out against the machines, but then now he's for them. No reason for the switch.
Of course. Well, because it suits the Democrats. And that's basically it is all in a nutshell. Delaware County was Republican for 150 years, and in 2020 it was flipped. Actually, in 2019, it was the 2020 election, going into the 2020 election.
Yes.
In 2019, it was flipped over to Democrat. Yeah, I mean, it's been a target county for a very long time. And in Pennsylvania, I believe we have the worst uniparty there possibly could be in the whole entire country. So it's very beneficial. It's very monetarily, power-wise, it's very beneficial to steal elections.
Well, that's also it. You said that the uniparty, and people have to understand that both sides are benefiting from the election fraud, and that you're getting people that nobody really wants, and so forth. And I think that people need to understand that it's both sides. This is why you'll get Republicans that are voting with Democrats for certain things, and Democrats will vote with Republicans on things that are not good for the country either. Right? Like you see when it comes to sending money to Ukraine, everybody's on board with that, and God forbid everything else that's destructive. So you can see that they're all criminals as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah.
Yes, and it comes down to basically who's going to pay who and who's going to pay to play. And I mean, I'm more of a you make the most difference down on the local level. But if you want to talk about like my school district, for instance, Garnet Valley, which is in Delaware County, Pennsylvania, our solicitor is Republican. But, all of the solicitorships that he has in these school districts, they were all paid by the Shapiro administration because they fell in line during COVID. They did all the safety plans. They pushed the vaccines and everything else. And they got paid through the ESSER funds and everything else. That was another investigation that I had done. Now that they did their job and did what they were supposed to, and I truly believe those ESSER funds and the COVID safety plans really came down to bailing out the pension funds that are failing miserably in Pennsylvania and across the country. But yeah, now they're getting their comeuppance, and they got more money, more grant money, more funding to these specific school districts. And, it's just basically they pretend to hate each other, and then they play the backroom deals.
Yes.
It's disgusting.
Yes. They all speak lies and sit at the same table is a quote from the Bible that talks about this, that perfectly describes this, because they act like they're enemies, but they're all sitting together and they're lying to us all. And this is disgusting. COVID, what people don't realize with COVID was like the biggest money laundering operation in this world's history. It was there, and then it was done in order to continue to fund the color revolutions across the globe, especially in the Western countries, because they were like, well, they don't have authoritarian government, so we're going to change that. And it looks like I mean, the hallmarks of CIA color revolutions. This is why they did what they did with the elections. And when you start, like you said, seeing Republican counties that were 150-year Republicans just decide to go and vote for Biden, right? Like, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
It's a joke. It really is. But, the worst part in Pennsylvania is and I put this in quotations, our governor, Shapiro, who's painted as a moderate, and he is a full-on Democratic socialist. It comes down to the COVID funding, but it is a transformation of our country, fundamentally, as Obama had promised. And what we're transitioning to here in Pennsylvania, which a lot of people aren't even aware of, which is another investigation of mine, is hydrogen energy. And I connected it to Trudeau, to Mark Carney. When you talk about the Keystone Pipeline that they shut down, when you talk about these hydrogen hubs that are being pushed into Fayette County and Delaware County, these were targeted counties for not only election fraud, but these hydrogen hubs. You link it into the Mach 2 project, which goes all the way down the Appalachia. Everybody's making money from it. Dave McCormick is pushing for it. He's a Republican. And they're transforming and I think it is a huge national security issue, because Pennsylvania has more natural gas than Saudi Arabia. Actually, we have so much potential. I think we produce about 3% of the GDP for our country. And they're going to transform our energy, and it's going to fail, just like it did in California. You have cars that are abandoned out there right now because they can't keep up with the hydrogen energy.
Well, this is the thing, and I know a bit about hydrogen, but I just wanted to let people know, for anybody who didn't know this, Pennsylvania was where the Rockefellers made their money. They actually got onto the oil, and then they started initially with the trains, and then they bought up the trains, and they ran it like basically a mafia operation. And then if you didn't use their trains, they ran you out of business and bought your company on oils on the dollar. And then when the stuff went on in Texas, they found oil in Texas. They couldn't control it, so they went into investment banking. Yes. Oh, yeah. And so, yes. But hydrogen, people have to understand, hydrogen, it costs more energy to produce hydrogen than it outputs. Like, this is an energy sink. The only how I would justify any type of hydrogen production is if you had wasted energy that you could just use that to process hydrogen to store it, right? This is the only way that you can do this, because right now it's too energy intensive. And this is stuff we talked about this in school and engineering and so forth about the hydrogen. So I looked at a lot of these green technologies that they're pushing, and you know who you don't hear talking about them? The guys who build them. You don't hear them going out in front of the government and talking and saying all these things, because they would get disciplined, because they'd be lying. Because what the government says about these things, it's not true. It is not true. 100%.
No, it's a money grab, and it'll fail, just like Obama's block grant programs back in the early 2000s, when he gave all that money out to all the Democrat states, places like Michigan, where Jennifer Granholm was the governor, and they used the block grant money for solar panels and to do, green energy projects, and they all failed. So they were either sold off to China, or they went bankrupt. And then Jennifer Granholm, of course, she became our U.S. Secretary of Energy for Biden. So she got her comeuppance. And then, of course, those block grants were used by Frank Biden to build solar panels in Costa Rica. So again, it's like the biggest RICO scandal. The elections, it's funny because God always brings me to where I'm supposed to be. It started with election fraud, and I figured out that that's just a means to an end. Like, obviously, our elections are very important, but it is a means to an end. You keep in the corrupt judges, you keep in the corrupt politicians, you keep in all the wicked people, that are willing to do these pay for play deals. And it's an extraction of wealth. And that's all it comes down to. They are not protecting our rights. They don't represent us. They represent themselves and their self-interests. And that's, that is really, it kind of took me from elections into energy, into investigating the family court system, into looking into funding for schools. And it just led me down this path of just, you know how it goes, like once you go down the path, you can't look away. Like,
Yes.
it's just, I just want to find out all the information, and I do. And I just feel like that's just God. That is just God, like, poking me, but like, all right, let's go down this rabbit hole and let's see how you can make this connect. And then, when I was investigating the 2020 election and witnessed it and became a target of Arctic frost, and I became a target of the National School Board Association and Merrick Garland and the Biden administration and Josh Shapiro, I was like, I am so over the target. I'm just going to keep pushing. And yeah, that led me to looking into, the COVID money, the ESSER funding. And of course, people started coming to me and others because, we're, I guess, courageous enough to speak up. But I've been able to help people in all different facets, in family court, with elections, with their campaigns. I've helped people whose properties have been stolen by their local government. These upset sales. Like, I have branched out into so much in the past 6 years, and quite honestly, I feel blessed, Neil. I do. I feel very blessed that, like, I just feel like I was meant for this time. It is one of the greatest times in I think the history of this country is exposing the wicked.
Oh yes. And when I looked at what they did with COVID, I was like, oh, I know exactly what's going on here. And I could see it. And then everything that I saw, it was just like, yep, that's falling into place. That's falling into place, and everything else like this. And it's like, when you look at what they're doing, like you said, with the family courts and all these things, this is treason. And the courts specifically. And I actually helped somebody. I was doing looking at this, and I was articulating this to somebody, and they're using this for their court one of their court hearings. What the courts are doing is they break everything down and they isolate them and they have a very narrow focus. And this was done by design, because courts never operated this stringent in that manner. Because when you look at certain crimes, like any type of like organized crime, you cannot do this. You have to look at a broad area to look at the repeating pattern, but they're narrowing everything down, and you're seeing that they do things that may, in that very narrow focus, look legal. But if you pull back to like a 40,000 foot view, you can see that they're not. And then you watch the cumulative effect of what they're doing is they're violating so many of our rights in very small stages. They're effectively creating 13th Amendment violations, because when you have no effective rights, you're pushed into poverty. You can't make proper decisions because your choices are limited because of the coercion of the state. You're effectively a slave. You may not have the physical chains on you, but you're no less restricted. Your chains are chains of circumstance that the government is imposing on you using the force of the state. And this is a huge problem that people need to realize that's out there. This is treason. This is how you take over countries.
Right. So a lot. I'm so glad you said that, because that's a perfect way of talking about the communism that's here. I mean, Pennsylvania has been captured. That's it. I mean, it's state capture, and we're holding on to everything that we possibly can. But Josh Shapiro is 100% a criminal. Like, he is a criminal. I have no problem saying that whatsoever. Just the fact that when he was the Pennsylvania Attorney General, and he sent 2 special agents to my front door who were armed, and were here to intimidate me as a witness. I mean, that actually happened. I had the FBI at my front door. He has done so much of the string pulling in here in Pennsylvania, and especially when it comes to the court system. I mean, we've had attorneys come to us and say that they were not allowed to represent us. Like the calls came down from the top, from Shapiro, that we could not be represented because they would lose their bar license. I mean, this man fears what I have to say, and I love every second of it. I refer to him as Little Josh because he's tiny. He's got a very much he is he's got a Napoleon complex, and he is looking to run. And I keep talking about him, obviously not just because of that he came for me, which wasn't a very smart choice, because he's been my focus for 6 years. And it was the worst thing he ever could have done, because I hope we've destroyed his possibility of running for presidency, which he wants to do in 2028. And I'm gonna spend the next 2 years making sure that doesn't happen. He is not a moderate. He is very well backed. I mean, very well backed. He's taken millions of dollars from Soros, from Reid Hoffman, Steven Spielberg, from Comcast, Toll Brothers. I mean, you name it. He is very well funded, which lets me know that he is the La Cosa Nostra. I mean, he is. They invaded the mob to become the mob, and that's all he is. He's a mobster. He's wicked, and he is a democratic socialist. He is connected to everyone. Trudeau, Trudeau was in Pennsylvania right before he left office. Mark Carney, who's now in office in Canada, direct connection to Shapiro. We have all this renewable energy from Brookfield, which is Mark Carney was the head of Brookfield.
I know.
Yeah, it's in Lancaster. Yeah, it's in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Brookfield is very well connected here in Pennsylvania. And then if you get into my investigation into the Philadelphia refinery, which produced 300,000 barrels a day of oil, 17% of it was Russian crude, by the way. And they blew that up. That was blown up. And one of the people that was present during that refinery explosion was James Savage, who ended up retiring into Costa Rica in 2019 and then came out of retirement to become the voting machine warehouse supervisor for Delaware County. He was the one that sued me, President Trump, and Giuliani in Philadelphia because we exposed him on videos. Oh yeah, he was the United Steelworkers Union president in Philadelphia. He was on the oil bargaining committee. He was a huge progressive, green energy. Oh, he would just so happen to be there on a skeleton crew when that place exploded. So I can connect. Not only can I connect that refinery explosion to Trudeau, because there was maybe you've heard of it, but Caisse de Dupois is a private equity firm that was directly linked to the Canadian government, was a shareholder in the company that took over the refinery, a global company. I mean, the connections, people say like China's our biggest threat. Canada is a huge threat to the United States of America. One of the largest foreign landowners is Canada. And no one's talking about it but me and maybe a few others. And I'm like, hello, China's working through Canada.
Yes.
Communism. It's here in Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Right here.
I've been saying this for years, and people don't realize that. And I'm like, I said, the globalists, the two most important things that they are going for is number one is the United States, and number two is Canada. Because if you want to take the United States, you need to take Canada so that you can bend them over, because so much of our infrastructure is tied together, the power grid, the water, the energy, and everything else like that. So if you control Canada and then it ever gets to a point where some type of civil unrest is going to break in, or God forbid war, well, they can just cut everything off and then they can't defend themselves as well, because you need energy and you need supplies in order to fight a war. It doesn't matter how many weapons you have. If your soldiers are starving and you have no fuel, you're not going anywhere. Right?
Correct. That is capturing. And it's been happening at such a slow pace, because that's the long war, right? That's how communism works.
Yes.
It comes in very slow, steady. They're very meticulous. They pinpoint. I mean, they're very, strategically, they are wicked smart. But
Yes.
they just, what they lack is God. So they're very easily defeatable, and they are, because there's a lot of them are they're stupid. They use people, they use their goons, and so on and so forth. But I don't know if you've ever heard Josh Shapiro talk, but he is an idiot. I mean, the man has never had a real job in his life. He went from being a commissioner in Montgomery County, which is, I think, where hell is underneath. He went from being a commissioner, then to the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office, and then he became governor. And now he wants to be president, and he's connected to everybody.
A lot of politicians shouldn't be there, and that's why they put them there, because they'll do their bidding to keep their jobs, right? And then they're like, well, you do this for us and we'll make sure that you get in. Protect the crime, right? Because the election fraud is how they get their people in to continue doing whatever it is they're doing. Because if you got people that, God forbid, serve the people, you wouldn't be able to continue this nonsense. And this is why it's like, it's not a Republican Democrat issue. It's a whole everybody issue, because they put in who they want when they want, and they just appease certain people to get somebody that will say the things that they want to hear, but will still betray them on the most important aspects.
I'll give you an example on how important these local positions are, more so than the national. Just my informed opinion, but there was a commissioner that was in Lancaster County. His name is Josh Parsons, and of course, you have the Scott Presslers of the world, the controlled opposition, which is what he is, because he's been pushing mail-in ballots forever, making millions of dollars off of it, even though it's the most fraudulent system there is. So, of course, Josh Parsons was pushing against Brookfield coming in, Brookfield Renewables, which is Mark Carney, to come into Lancaster and to do this hydroelectric project, and right on the river there, or the dam rather. So Josh Parsons pushing, Lloyd Smucker, like all of these people were pushing back against this green energy project. And Josh Parsons was in I think it was a plus 25 Republican area when he ran in 2024. And guess what? Of course, they were like, well, it's the voters' fault. It's not enough people came out to vote. Do you know that's one of the oldest tricks in the book? Everybody that I've ever talked to, old school politicians, and I'm talking decades ago, that is one of the oldest tricks in the book. Well, you just didn't turn out. You just didn't. It's your fault. Not that there's mail-in ballot fraud, right? Not that there's communists pushing in, okay, and pushing against Josh Parsons, okay, because they want to bring in this energy project. No, people, it's because you didn't embrace the communist mail-in ballot system. It's your fault. That is where we are in the grand scheme of everything. And I think it is hilarious. I don't care about Scott Pressler's background or that he's gay. I don't care. It has nothing to do with it. He is pushing a fraudulent system. He won't talk to any election integrity experts. He blocks people, and he collects millions of dollars off of mail-in ballots, okay? That has caused not only people to be in prison because we protested a fraudulent election in 2020, but American citizens to be targeted by a weaponized government. And people are clapping. This is how stupid and uninformed the American citizenry is. It is not surprising that the national IQ is under 100. It isn't. When I talk to people and they're clapping like seals and they're like, oh my gosh, Scott Pressler, he's so nice. And what have you done, Leah? Do you know how many times I get asked, what have I done? I'm like, do you really want the resume? Because I can give it to you. And you know what? It's funny, Dale. Sorry to go off on a rant, but what cracks me up is they act as if I've never been offered the opportunity to sell out. As if it's never been offered to me to take the money and shut my mouth. Do you think that's ever happened to me, Dale, in
Yes.
6 years? Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. And do you know what I told them? I'm sure you could take a guess.
Yes, I know. Right? I mean, somebody approached me and asked me, what do I want? And I was like, justice. Right?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Just, I'm not
I don't know
paying.
if you can see this. Where is this? Justice, temperance, wisdom, courage. And then my favorite is Ephesians 6:13. I put on that full armor of God every single day. And of course, my little Jesus. Here's my, everybody needs a little Jesus.
Yes.
We do.
Yes.
That's the only way I'm going out, Dale. That's the only way I'm going out with my convictions, my morals, values, and my faith, you know? And I'm
Absolutely.
just, like, I keep doing what I'm doing. I may die with holes in my pocket, but you know, at the end of the day, we're all going to be in the same size box.
Yes. I'm just going to take a short break because I got to play a commercial here, but we'll be right back on the other side.
Perio, co-founder of Mark37.com. I spent my career in Silicon Valley working for high-tech infrastructure companies, and I've witnessed firsthand the surveillance apparatus they've built. Most of you already know we're in a digital war right now, but are you really aware that we're trying to fight this war with the weapons and tools of the enemy? That Android or iPhone in your pocket? That MacBook or Windows laptop? It's a tracking device feeding everything you say and do to companies that want you under their control or eliminated entirely. Every text, call, location, even how long you pause on a post, they track it all and use complex algorithms to then use this data to manipulate your behavior. If you knew someone hacked your devices and was selling your data without your consent, you'd be furious and terrified. So why are you okay with these companies doing this to you right now? Here's what they don't want you to know. There is another way. At Mark37.com, we offer phones, laptops, tablets, and even basic flip phones, all running systems big tech can't access unless you explicitly give them access. And what's even better is you also don't need to sacrifice productivity. I'm one of thousands of geeks mobilized across this country, building tools and providing education and support to help you live anonymously online before they enforce digital ID. Go to mark37.com. Sign up for a free 30-minute digital privacy consultation. Join hundreds of thousands who have decided to stop feeding their data to companies actively working to enslave us. Take back your communications. Take back your data. And may God bless you on your journey.
Yes, and if anybody wants to get one of these, because I got one, go to mark37.com and use the code CARES, and you'll get a 5% discount. Like, I mean, I'm in communist Canada, whatever you want to call it. The government steals our data, and they get corporations to steal the data for them, right? And it doesn't matter what they do. I don't want them to get it. And if they are going to get it, they're going to have to work for it to break the law, right? Because they shouldn't be doing that. And that's really it. So kind of circling back to what you were talking about. Yes, the local aspect is important. It is. But we also have to, and especially in the American system, the way that is worked is the federal government exists for one purpose. Obviously, protection is part of that purpose because that's articulated in the preamble of the Constitution. But it's also designed to ensure, part of that is to ensure that the states all stay in line with the Constitution that they all agree to, right? So if I, for example, if I was in, say, California, and I'm a California citizen, and California decides to enact slavery again, well, I can go into the court and get them to restrain them and do something. And if it's really emergent, then you can do other things in order to deal with this. And that's what it's for. So then, instead of having to fight a civil war again, I mean, you can do this. And so the local action has to happen, but they also need to put pressure on the federal government for them to use their powers. Like my daughter was talking in the beginning, the Article 4, Section 4, the guarantee clause. Because right now, multiple states, like whether it's with the election, whether it's the court system or whatever, there is no Republican form of government. And the biggest key to the whole issue is the court system. Because the court is designed for a citizen to go and restrain any branch of the government. But what have they done? They have infiltrated the courts so that you cannot get justice. Then they use procedures. And this is one of the things that we're also challenging. They're using procedures to violate the Constitution. And then you sit down and do whatever in the state court, say whatever. But there's that thing called the Supremacy Clause, that the U.S. Constitution, the treaties, and the laws are binding on every judge in every state. There is no procedure that you can use to nullify the U.S. Constitution, right? There's a woman who's family court in Texas. She's challenging this because they're denying her right to habeas corpus because they said vexatious litigation. Well, I didn't read that in the Constitution, right?
So what's interesting, there's a great group of patriots here in Delaware County called the Delco Deep Divers. And we'll get into one of those deep divers, Mr. Rob Mancini. But we've been fighting in the courts forever, for the past 6 years. And we've petitioned, that's where we redress our government. And in Black's Law Dictionary, the term court is a retinue for the sovereign. And the only sovereign that there is are the people, not court officers, not judges. So the court, when I go into a court, I exercise my sovereignty. I exercise my rights. And I've gone after judges many times in court hearings. I only wish in Pennsylvania that they could record some of the things that I've actually said to these judges. And I put them right in their place. And but these deep divers, they are, they become petitioners and they fight and they bring the material facts. And of course, the people, these law firms and so on and so forth, and they use procedure and the administrative, nonsense. And this is what the judges are used to, and when you start presenting actual material facts, and when you start, using the system the way that it's supposed to be used, like, they are dumbfounded. These judges are dumbfounded, and they're like, well, that's not how it goes around here. And I'm like, I don't care how it goes around here, Your Honor. I said, this is the law. So we're going to follow the law, and I don't want to talk about this administrative, nonsense. There was a book I wanted to show you. It's excellent. Talking about the courts and so on and so forth and court access. But what they have compromised and corrupted is the Constitution and is common law, which is what our system was built on. It's become a business. It's so corrupted. President Trump has talked about the administrative courts and the destruction of those administrative courts. And one of the biggest moneymakers in the country, which most people probably don't even realize, is the family court system.
Yes.
The extraction of wealth from fathers or mothers, but the child support system is one of the most corrupted systems that there is. And we could probably go on about that on another show. But kind of getting back to the Delco Deep Divers, they've petitioned, they've done their research, and they see the battles that that have to be fought. They are putting themselves on the front line. They're amazing human beings. There's two candidates running right now, Kathy Buckley, who is running for Pennsylvania House, and then Nick Manganiero, who's taking on Mary Gay Scanlon, who's one of the biggest Democratic socialists there is, the fifth congressional district. But these people they're amazing. They are good, God-fearing patriots. That they don't seek the limelight. They put their head down, nose to the grindstone, and they work. And that's what we're called to do as a republic, and people of God. And that's where I am. That's where they are, Dale.
I just wanted to say on this, when people talk about petitioning, when you look at the First Amendment right to petition your government for redress of grievances, the primary reason for that is not in a court. It is not. If you go back to the Declaration of Independence and they talk about all the things went on, they said effectively at the end, they were like, our humble petitions were met with repeated injury. That's after they talked about the corruption in the courts and everything else like that. If the petition for redress, and I looked this up, where it came back and it looked at the rules for the legislative assemblies in the United States, and then it went back to the British common law where this came from. The petition for redress of grievances is to the government, to the highest authority. When there is something that is going wrong, you go to the government, and this is what they were doing. And because they did not hear those petitions, this is why they penned the Declaration of Independence, because that's the final straw. If you look at everything in the First Amendment, the petition for redress of grievances is the last, and then the Second Amendment, because they know if that fails, then the Second Amendment is there to enforce the fact of what happens. And if you read the Declaration of Independence, you'll understand that this is the way it is. And when you look at this, this is what it means. So they've quietly just pushed aside the right to petition for redress of grievances and told you to go to the courts, and then told you to just sign these pieces of paper and just whatever. So what we actually did was to go back and did it according to the rules of the petitions for redress of grievances. And this is what was submitted to Representative Anna Polina Luna on, I think it was May 19th, right? And then we've had other people coming forward to bring this in. This is what it is. They actually don't even have a procedure anymore in Congress to deal with this. So we have to actually put things together to get them to triage it to certain committees. But we know that a lot of those people are criminals. So we're wanting people to push it together because everybody has a vested interest with the judicial branch being broken. And this is what the people need to do to push the powers to deal what needs to be done. Because Article 4, Section 4 is not a court issue, it's a political issue. And even the Supreme Court has had a number of decisions that agree with that. And so using those powers, courts don't intervene.
I love this. I love that I'm learning something today. I do. I really do. And it makes sense. It makes perfect sense to me, exactly what you're saying. Our founding fathers were incredibly intelligent.
Yes, they were.
And they could see into the future. And, as flawed as they were or whatever, we're all flawed and all sinners. They made the best experiment known in history, and that's the United States of America. But actually, what's interesting is you were talking a little bit earlier. You would use something about vexatious litigation. Is that's what it was? And there's some Republicans. It's interesting. There's Republicans in Pennsylvania who want to label public records requesters as vexatious. Like if you file too many public records requests. And I thought it was hilarious. I was like, oh, it's too much on you that we're filing for public records, mind you, while you're being paid with my tax dollars. And you want to label people because I've become, and many people have become, experts in demanding these public records and getting the information that we want, and then using it as evidence in the courtroom. That's what I've been doing for especially the past 4 years, 4.5 years. So I give them back their own self-authenticating information, and I'm like, you admitted to it, right here, but
Yeah.
vexatious, and we're being sued for the past 3 years by the Delaware County, Greg Stensham and I, for malicious prosecution by my own government. The
Really?
county government is suing me as a citizen for malicious prosecution because we filed too many court filings. That's their reasoning. And they want their attorneys paid again.
Yeah. That's funny. They won't even take me to court here in Canada. They won't, because they would have to, the stuff I was taking to court on, they'd have to bring somebody like me to basically say 2 + 2 = 5 on the public record. They can't even do it.
Mm-hmm.
They've
done it.
Yes. But I mean, with engineering, what the government proposed doesn't work. And so they'd have to demonstrate to people, and that would be on the public record, and the people would scratch their heads going, well, how is it that you gave something to somebody that clearly doesn't work? Like, I mean, that's literally, that's crime. But I mean, at the end of the day, they're criminals. But I hear what you're saying. That's funny.
Yeah.
That is fun.
2020, August of 2023, we were sued. And they've been dragging, we're on our fourth judge.
Really?
Fourth judge. Oh yeah. So the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, it happens in 1% of civil cases. They appointed a new judge from a different county to come in, and we destroyed him, and then used the transcript from the hearings to then provide into the court docket as under the rules of evidence and judicial notices. They don't know what to do with us, so they've just basically paused everything. The county tried to slide through a default judgment in the amount of $870,000 for attorney's fees. Oh, I was cracking up laughing. I was like, you're not getting a dime from me. See, they're delaying because they know I'm going to turn around and sue them in federal court.
Yes. After we're done here, I just want to talk to you after we're done about what you can do here. But I wanted to pull up some of the videos that you'd sent me earlier, and I'm just going to pull up the first one, the little short 18-second clip of it, and then you can kind of explain to the people what's going on with this.
Sure.
Okay, so this is what was the going on with this?
So this is a post that I had made. It's just kind of like screenshots. I'm really good at screenshotting and kind of keeping things as receipts, if you will. But this is basically kind of it's a mixture of public records, talking about CrowdStrike, talking about the Falcon program, talking about CISA, James Allen, Noah Prates, and how they're all connected some way, somehow. Christopher Wray. I had gone into and made all the dots connect about how these machines and were used in Cook County. They used Dominion in Cook County. And then when, James Allen came to Delaware County, and we use Hart InterCivic. I mean, they're all the same. It doesn't matter which company it is. They're all not secure machines that you can manipulate. But that whole slideshow kind of goes into the connections. There's a post attached to it. But the greatest part was there's another post underneath of that post that was connected to it. I had spent about 45 minutes with a Democrat. Her name is Dr. Laura Chamberlain. Yes. And she exposed Cook County back in 2016. And we all knew that Bernie Sanders' election was stolen. The primary was stolen from him. We all knew it. They admitted it. Yes. She was a part of a lawsuit that exposed Cook County for stealing the primary from Bernie Sanders. Dr. Laura Chamberlain and I, we spoke on the phone, and then I found her videos, prior to that. That's how I got a hold of her. But she talks about the three things that they do. And it's the exact blueprint. It's the exact blueprint for what they did in 2020 in Delaware County.
You want me to pull up the clip? I can pull up the clip.
That'd be great. It's right underneath that post, actually.
Yeah.
before, there's 3 levels of election fraud in Chicago. There's the precinct level on the ground fraud, there's mid-level fraud, and then there's the highest fraud, which is paying off people within the Chicago Board of Election to flip the votes on the central tabulator. As the votes come in, it's just on a computer that's not attached to the internet. 3 guys, those 3 guys are people that we never get to talk to, we never get to elect. They can simply be corrupt, and they literally can just run algorithms on the central tabulator.
All right.
So, and we do believe that this is, like, we know for a fact this scheme is in place, because when we sued in 2016 for the fraud, for the cover-up of the fraud in the primaries in Chicago, what happened as a result of that is 3 people jumped ship, okay? Because we had a dang good suit. We just didn't have a really good lawyer, okay? So we had a dang good suit, and 3 people jumped ship. The chief legal counsel, James Scanlon, of the Chicago Board of Elections, been there for decades. The assistant executive director, Kelly Bateman, and the head IT guy, Ron Boyd.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
I literally, when I listened to that video, Dale, I was like, I need to get a hold of this woman. She just explained everything that transpired and that we documented and sent witness declarations to U.S. Attorney Bill McSwain. We documented in our book, The Parallel Election, which you can find on Amazon. But that was, 5 years before James Allen came to Delaware County and before, the 2020 election.
And this woman was a Democrat?
She is a Democrat.
And you have her evidence?
So I have her court filings. They're sitting right in the docket in Chicago. She's very easy to get a hold of.
Yes, I would like to speak with her. Absolutely. And now you fast forward, it's 2026. I sent you the article that was covered by Linda Stein from Broad and Liberty. She covered the the information about these barcodes that are on these ballots that are directly linked to an actual voter. Yeah, these things, these issues that are going on, like this should make it clear to people that this is not a Republican or a Democrat issue. This is really it's a control system problem that the people are losing on, right? It's really it. So, yes.
Yeah, so
go ahead.
Robert Mancini, great friend of ours, great friend of mine. He's part of the Delco Deep Divers group, which is, we work together, but it's a separate group. They have their own thing. They're awesome. But Rob, he's been, persistent in public records requests and lawsuits and getting what he needs to prove that, there's major security issues. You're talking about this machinery in our elections, which are part of our critical infrastructure. This is a major problem. And James Allen admits in an affidavit that these barcodes on the ballot are linked to a voter, which means there's no secrecy. And that's a major problem, especially because they're being read. They're on, you could link it to, he explained it to me the one day, and, just all the connections, and it's so intricate. I let the techies figure out all that stuff, and, I understand it from the, the 30,000 foot level. But they know what they're talking about. These people are literally employed by our government, or were employed, or, involved in military, cybersecurity, all that stuff. And people are like, you're just an election denier. I don't even know what that means. Like, the onus isn't on me to prove fraud. The onus is on the government to prove that they ran a secure, free, and fair election. Like, it's in the Constitution, if we want to get real technical.
Yes.
So it's not on me. It's not on any citizen. You know, the person who is harmed, the people are the ones that are harmed. The government's not harmed.
Yes.
The government can't be harmed.
No, the government it's a job description. It's not a person. They own rights.
Right. So that's what's fascinating to me is like this, you know, words matter, Dale. I talk about them a lot. You know, Obama was very good with his communist propaganda, you know, the Marxism that would come out, and how he would make these words like more palpable and romantic, if you will.
Yes.
You know, undocumented immigrants, you know, saying things like protecting our democracy. You know, these are, I don't know, trans lives matter. And, you know, I just, people don't even, and then they start repeating them. I hear Republicans and conservatives talking about the word democracy. And I'm like, I'll give you $1,000 if you can show me the word democracy in any of our founding documents. And they just repeat them because they're very good. It doesn't. The psychological warfare that people don't even realize that is happening. You know, talking more and more people into, you know, how guns are bad and firearms are bad, and you know, how hate speech. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as hate speech. No such thing. I'm like, all speech is covered. The government's not going to tell me who to love or to hate. So I'll hate whoever I want. I'll talk about whatever religion I want. I'll talk about whatever race I want. I'll talk about whatever. I will talk about whatever I want to, because I have a God-given right to do it. And the minute you allow government to define your words or tell you what to say or start making laws about, anti-Semitism laws, for instance, and I'm going, what is happening? What is happening? Okay, you can't pick out one certain group and be like, boom, you're special and you get protective laws. No, a crime is a crime, right? If you stab someone, regardless of race or background, it's already a law. You can't do that, right?
Yes. You can.
If you start going out like and talking about and filtering what I'm saying, that is tyranny.
Yes, people. This is the problem. Is that yes, people have the right to say what they want, but they also have the right to get the consequences of those actions. And usually, the people are the ones to give those consequences, but they restrain the people from doing this, and this is why they end up having these types of things, because a lot of the stuff that you're seeing that are becoming problematic, most people don't tolerate that. But what can they do now when they see this? Because normally they would go in and they just sort the things out. But now if you try to sort that thing out, you get arrested, right? And you don't even have to hit anybody. You just go in and say, look, man, we don't want to deal with this. They're going to be like, oh, I'm scared, blah, blah, blah. They call the police to take you away. So then what do they do? Then they start bringing up these laws because, sure, is racism a good thing? No, it's not. But is it a crime to say something, a racial slur? No, it's not. At the end of the day, can it be an aggravating factor in a crime? Yes, it can. And that's where you look at, okay, if this person is okay, well, I hate X group. And so I'm saying this, and then I start killing X group because of this, then you can sit down and say, okay, that's an aggravating factor. So we're going to give you more time because you had demonstrated this pattern of behavior. That's what the way the law works. So I don't understand why they had to bring in all of these other laws, because just apply what you already had, because the more laws you create, the more restriction that we have, and the government gets more power.
That's right. That's always my argument. It's like there's so many laws on the books that aren't even, I mean, look at all the soft on crime, you know, these left-wing policies and Soros DAs and these judges, they don't apply the law as it is. So now you're going to make more laws. Like, how does that work? it doesn't work. It just creates chaos, and that's the whole point.
Yes, and they've structured our society in the way that they would need this. And like, I mean, when they started to break down families, they know that the rates of violence and everything is going to go up, because when you have broken homes, this is what you're going to have, especially when you have single parent mothers. They're going to be the lowest socioeconomic status. They're going to be vulnerable and everything else like that. And then when they raise those kids, those boys are not going to be well, because they're going to jail more and all these things. Then what's going to happen? They're going to go ahead and they're going to start traumatizing and doing this to the women. And then when they be broken, then they go ahead and repeat the cycle, right? And then what ends up happening? Well, the state has to come in and fix things because of the problem that they helped create, right? They create the problem and they give you a solution, and that solution means you're dependent on them and you become a slave. No, thank you.
Correct. Well, what's interesting too is, I'm a big fan of Thomas Sowell, and he talks a lot about how well the black population was doing prior to the welfare state. The nuclear family was intact. The income, they were able to purchase homes, literacy rates, all of that stuff was, it was climbing prior to the welfare state. And then the other part too is what people really don't talk about, and I don't really hear it a whole lot, but the illiteracy rates across the country. Philadelphia it's been run by Democrats for 70 years. The schools are closing down, these poor kids, and illiteracy is a direct correlation to crime. If they spend, they're letting these kids, not even kids, but these adults out of bail and letting them back on the streets, and they're repeat offenders. But nobody's doing the preventative part. Nobody cares that they come out of these schools poor, can't get a job, and they have the reading level of like a third grader. These are 18-year-olds. And so what do they turn to? Right. Do you think they care? Have you ever heard Democrats go after illiteracy? No. I have never heard it in all of my years, ever.
Do you know what spurred literacy across the globe?
Tell me.
The Bible. When the Bible became widespread, literacy rates went through the roof because people wanted to read it. And then they started to spread it to other places, and then reading came along. When you look at the black community had Marxism way before everybody else other than the natives. And when they did that, that became a problem, right? And so when you take away the Bibles, the literacy rate goes down. When you teach people that they're going to have better literacy rates, they're going to learn to have morals and values, and they're going to have families. But when you take that away, you're going to break them down easier.
Yep. That makes perfect sense. See, Dale, I'm telling you, I learned 2 things from you today. I love it.
Awesome.
I love it.
Life should be learning.
Love that. Absolutely. All the time. I'm always learning. Always.
That we have to. And that needs to be something that's done. And everybody can learn from everybody. That's what the mindset people need to have, because I learn stuff all the time, because I don't know everything. I know that. The more I know, the more I realize I don't know. Every question that I get answered, I get 10 more, right? So
that's right.
There's always going to be questions.
And you can pass it on.
Yes.
You pass on your knowledge, and give people the ability to, speak up or, have courage. And when they're educated, there's power in that.
We're going to have to come back and do a talk about the family court issue, because that's a big thing that's going on now. We'll follow up and do that. And I know that we're running up on time here. So what do you want to say to people, and how can they reach you, and how can they help you?
Sure. So, don't give up the faith at all. This country is worth saving. Where your power is in your backyard. I say it all the time. I think you should dig your trench and move forward. Don't let anyone push you back. Don't live in fear. We still live in the greatest country. There's nowhere else to go. link onto your neighbors, protect your backyards. And then, of course, you can help support myself and others. You can purchase the parallel election at Amazon. You can also go and support my publishing company. Is a publishing media consulting company at rhgpublish.com, where I actually help people to represent themselves in court. I teach them how to navigate the court system. I teach them my strategies. I help people with public records requests. And most importantly, just have courage. And that's really all it comes down to. Even when you have fear, you have the courage to push forward, because quite honestly, we are at a point in this country where we need saving, and we are running out of time, everybody. But I am living proof that you can survive and go through a lot of adversity and come out on the other side. And I'm able to help others. And I get to meet awesome people like Dale, and get to talk to people that I probably never would have met or talked to. And that's only through God. So keep praying, keep fighting, dig your trench, and fight for your republic, and make sure that you get a copy of the book. And you can visit me at rhgpublish.com. And I'm also on X, Leah, Hoopes _ Leah, I believe is I'm like blanking right now. My brain's fried. On X.
No worries.
My brain's fried.
And you can, the links will be in the description, so give her a follow and so forth, and support what she's doing, and share this so people can see. And thank you for coming. And I'll just close here with a prayer, because we need a lot of it. All right. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your grace and mercy and all the things that you have done for us and given us the opportunity to be here at this time. And Father, I ask of you this day to watch over the work that Leah is doing and others like her in her state and across the country and across the world. They're there to protect the liberties of others, and most importantly, protect those of the children, and help that the men and the women will come together to rebuild their families, their churches, their communities, and their nation, that we can have some protection for the children who need it the most, is my prayer. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Dale. I look forward to our next session, the family court system.
Oh, yes.
Hello, friends. My name is Keisha, and I'm a proud member of the Métis Nation of Saskatchewan. I'm also a survivor of human trafficking. My trafficking began in Canada and crossed it to the United States. I was stalked, hunted, and ignored by the very systems that were meant to protect me. This is why, with my father, Dale Richardson, we started the CARES Project, an Indigenous survivor-led movement for humanity. We are dedicated to exposing human trafficking, government corruption, and holding institutions accountable. The judicial branch is broken. It has failed to restrain the evils that have come upon this republic. Whether it's family court failures, weaponization of the judiciary, COVID-era harms, or human trafficking, the courts have allowed these issues to continue unchecked for too long. One of the most powerful tools we're using is the petition for redress of grievances. These are lawful constitutional actions rooted in the founding principles of this country. On May 19, 2026, a formal petition for redress of grievances was submitted to the United States Congress. This petition is demanding that Congress and the President use the powers under Article 4, Section 4 to preserve this Republican form of government by restraining these abuses pending congressional investigation. Through the CARES Project Action Plan, we are mobilizing people across the United States to strengthen this effort. This petition has been created as a template. If you or someone you love have been hurt by these same systemic failures in the courts or by government institutions, your evidence matters. When you come forward, please bring your evidence along with a copy of the petition for redress of grievances. This helps connect your story to this growing constitutional record being placed before Congress. We are asking you to stand with us. Join the CARES Project Action Plan and help us build a precedent that demands accountability and protects the God-given rights of American families. Our united voices will compel Congress to uphold the Constitution and safeguard our liberties. United we stand, one nation under God. I will close with my favorite quote. The greatest want of the world is the want of men. Men who will not be bought or sold. Men who in their inmost souls are true and honest. Men who do not fear to call sin by its right name. Men whose conscience is as true to duty as the needle to the pole. Men who will stand for the right, though the heavens may fall. Thank you.